Welcome to another STP Community webinar by testers for testers. Learn more about upcoming webinars at SoftwareTestPro.com/training. Our speaker today is Arun Dutta. Hailing from Kolkata, India, Arun has worked across the globe as a performance tester, performance test lead, and now working as a performance test manager at ATOS Consulting, NAM, in Webster, New York. We're going to jump right into his webinar, already in progress, as Arun explains how to enhance customer experience with proactive performance testing.
The traditional, like the customary performance testing, and what is the basic difference with the proactive performance testing that I am proposing for any other projects, or any, you can even get that similarity for, or maybe like you can implement it even in your projects. And lastly, I'm going to talk about why proactive performance testing is for enhancing customer experience and how we can make it as an ongoing process for your business. So nowadays, high performance for an application is no matter a lavish, but a basic need for your business. So gone are the days when you need to make your customer understand about the business benefits of performance testing. So now most of the people know like high performance is absolutely required. On the other end, nowadays companies are much more concerned about the time to market pressure. So they are like, they had to implement time to market pressure, otherwise they will be behind the market. Okay, so overall performance testing become very crucial every time application goes live, no matter whether it's a major release or a minor release or a sprint for agile based project. And I will say like proactive performance testing is absolutely mandatory since early stages of SDLC to avoid big loss and reduce overall cost. The whole objective that I'm trying to say is like proactive. If you have to start, application performance needs to be given as a hotter importance. It should be given as a higher priority. It should not be afterthought. The moment you will be starting giving application performance, you have to start like performance testing is an integral part of SDLC. The moment you will be doing it, and you will be starting it from the early stages of SDLC, then only your end user will be happy. And it is not only the tester, it is like everybody's job. So when I say everybody, I'm trying to say it's like application owner, the stakeholder, the operations team, the testers, and then the development team. So everybody needs to understand that application performance is something which needs to be given as utter importance. And the moment you will be giving that, your end user will be happy. And the moment your end user will be happy, your overall customer experience journey will be always on the better side. And that way you can ensure you can do business in the long run. You can business in a enduring in the market, and you will get to know like you can make your customer more loyal. And that's what I'm saying, like if you do proactively performance testing, you are going to ensure better customer experience. Let's talk about some of performance testing benefits. So when I say like performance testing always comes with a realistic prediction. So performance testing well in advance at the time of pre-production tells you how your application is going to behave. So that way you can understand like under a stipulated layer how your application is behaving in production. So you get a good idea well in advance. So that way it gives you a realistic prediction. And it is like it overall is basically reduces the overall risk to your projects because you will not feel any issues in production. And then performance testing helps you to find like performance problems. So if there is any performance issues, maybe like you think about like response time is pretty high, or maybe like your response time may not matching with SLA, or could be like you have a CPU issue or you have memory issue. So those are the issues, if there is any, that can be identified while you will be doing performance testing. So, and then again, like it's not only identifying those issues, you have a flexibility to resolve those issues itself in pre-production stage so that you do not get any surprise in production. So you, and probably you can do that with the help of development team or maybe the application team, you do a iterative round of testing and ensure like there is no issue. So that way performance testing helps. It helps in cost savings. Yes, it saves cost in basically 3 ways. Less rework effort because you are catching the issues earlier. Less rework and tuning effort because you do not have to do any tuning or optimization kind of thing. So that way it's going to save, and then it's a reduced cost of hardware because you are optimally using your resources, right? So all 3 ways it's going to save you cost. Then again, like performance testing also helps in benchmarking. So when I say benchmarking, as like you have come up, this benchmarking will be used for future references. So it's like for a specific release, you do a round of testing, you come up with certain numbers, and that number can be used for your future references. So maybe like you can think about two different releases, and then one release you come up with some number, and another release you come up with another number. You can easily understand whether your application is actually improving or it is not at all improving. So these are the things which application owner will love to see, because even if you're a long run, for an example, a 6 month or maybe like period of 1 year, if you give your end user always improved performance and kind of trencher that you can show it well in advance before it goes to production, that way your application will be happy, your end users will be happy, and you will be making everybody happy. So performance benchmarking is absolutely helpful, and that can be gathered while doing your performance testing. Performance testing also helps in business continuity. So when I say business continuity, I'm saying like, I'm not saying like a direct business disaster recovery plan, but what I'm trying to say is like, if you have a huge transactional frequency on a specific scenarios, or maybe on a specific day, or maybe like if your one node is down, how will be ensuring that your end users are not affected? How will be ensuring that your business users are not getting affected? So that's the thing that you can do well in advance at the time of pre-production stage by doing performance testing. So these are the ways you will be ensuring that your business users are not affected. So you will always make sure your customer is feeling the better experience. Then again, like it also helps in capacity planning. So when I say capacity planning, first let's understand what is capacity planning. Capacity planning is a process or methodology to know the production capacity for an organization to meet the increased business demands for any products. Okay, so when you have to meet the business increased business demand, you have to know the application scalability is actually ensured. So the moment scalability comes, capacity planning is basically having two ways you can do that scalability. One is called as horizontal scalability, another one is called as vertical scalability. So when I said like horizontal scalability, which is also known as scale in or out, in that case, like you have a one node, and then you are adding another node, and then you are using the concept of distributing system. So what happens is, like, take an example, you have one node, or maybe like you have one web server, and then you are adding another web server, making it two web server, and then you are using the concept of load balancing, distributed the load across both the nodes. So what happens is, like, you are making sure you are having another node, and your overall scalability gets increased, so you can support more number of users. Whereas for vertical scalability, which is known as scale up or down, instead of adding a node, you are giving more resources, more powerful resources to the existing node. So if you take an example, you have a 2 GB RAM, you are making it a 4 GB RAM, and then you are supporting more numbers of users, or your overall scalability gets increased. Right. So basically, when we do capacity planning, you have to do a trade-off between both horizontal scalability and vertical scalability, because horizontal scalability and vertical scalability is having its own advantage and disadvantage. So you have to do a trade-off, and that trade-off can be done with performance testing. So let me tell you, like, what is about the horizontal scalability. So horizontal scalability deals with multiple nodes, right? The moment you are doing multiple nodes, an extra cost of maintenance will be added, and then a extra latency and throughput will be added, because you have to deal with multiple nodes. But the flexibility is, if your one node is down, you can always ensure others users are not affected, because you can ensure those users redirected to the other servers. So that way you will be good. So it is having all advantage and disadvantage. Same for vertical scalability. You do not have a flexibility of other nodes, because there is only one node. But the advantage is you do not have any additional maintenance cost. So basically, you have to do a trade-off between horizontal scalability and vertical scalability. And the moment you will be doing the trade-off between that, you can do it at the time of pre-production via performance testing, and then you will not get any surprise or any issue while at the time of pre-production environment. So that way it helps. So performance testing also helps in capacity planning. And these all are tangible benefits, what I talked about, right? These are directly related to the cost. There are a lot of intangible benefits which is not related to the cost, but those are absolutely necessary for your business. So the moment you are talking about intangible benefits like brand identity, customer satisfaction, these are absolutely required. If you do not get, or if you do not consider these intangible benefits, even though it's not a cost related, maybe your ROI calculation will not come on that perspective, but definitely it's required if you want to ensure your end user happy, if you want to ensure enhance customer experience, if you want to do business in the long run. So these are like all these performance testing benefits. Let's talk about customer experience. So nowadays, like customer experience is the crucial thing for any kind of application, whether it's a traditional application or the digital application that industry is going through, right? So, and when I say like customer experience is nothing but a personalized experience. So you have to know your customer so detailed that you can provide them personal experience. And the moment you will be giving those personal experience, you have to give enhanced feature every time, and you have to give improved performance over a period of time. So both is absolutely required, enhanced features as well as improved performance. And then again, like it is like you have to make them loyal. You have to make them convinced that so that they can remain loyal and they can influence or induce others to stay with you. And customer satisfaction is like the most important factor for any organization. All others are actually secondary. Customer experience comes only always on top, right? So you have to gather the information, and you have to gather the information about your customer. So when you will be gathering the information, how you will be doing that? You have to go through all the touch points that customer goes out, or maybe like all the channels that customer goes. And how will be, and it is not only applicable to internally, you have to try to get those information from externally also. So socio-medial collaboration is also helps you on that way. So you have to you have to go through those touch points and channels, and you have to dig out those informations. And those information you have to dig out with precision and with a lot of speed. And the moment speed comes, that means performance is absolutely required, right? And then like, for any successful customer experience, you need to have the right information. You need to have the right information at the right place and at the right time, and it has to be done every time, and then only you will be doing. And then in addition with that, if you give right information, right place, right time, every time with personal experience, your customer will be bound to be remain loyal to you, and that's what everybody is looking for. So when I say like the customer experience, the traditionally application speed, scalability, stability, or maybe like the availability, which is directly to the performance, is not the only parameters for customer experience. There are a lot of other parameters also, but this end-to-end performance is absolutely the mandatory, or maybe like the most important factor for your customer experience. And that's what, if you want to make sure you have to do enhance customer experience, then you have to ensure you are taking care of performance testing seriously. And the moment you will be doing it seriously, you have to do it proactively. And that's what I'm saying, like enhance customer experience by proactive performance testing. Let's go back to it a little back. Okay, so think about the traditional, or maybe like the customary performance testing, what we do every day. Most of the organizations are nowadays doing performance testing, okay, and they always go with this traditional aspect. So what they did, so people feel like performance testing is only for the major releases. So at the time of release calendar, for an example, at the time of release calendar, if you have like a many minor releases or maybe like security patch update, people do not include performance testing as a part of their SDLC because they feel it's not required. But you never know, a minor release can create a big performance impact, right? So basically you carry a lot of risks because you always go with only for the major releases. And then traditional performance testing happens at the last moment, at the time of pre-production environment. So even if you have performance issues, like I said, your response time is pretty high, or maybe like your response time not matching with SLA, still a business will be enforcing you to go for a deployment because they are waiting for the deployment, right? So, and then again, like traditional performance testing window is always short, and it happens at the last minute. Everybody will be waiting for the business will be waiting for your deployment. So it's like always you get a short window, and even if you have performance issues, you do not have time to resolve those issues, because you cannot ask your development team to resolve it, then go back in the testing environment, do a round of regression, come back to pre-production, do a round of iterative round of testing, ensure there is no performance issue before you go back to before you go ahead for a deployment, right? So the window is always short, and there are issues, but you still go ahead with the deployment. And then again, like traditional performance testing, I saw like many cases traditional performance testing happens means that the environment of the production and the pre-production environment that doesn't match. Okay, so what happens is like it will be like mostly 25% to 50% scalable, so you have to do always extrapolation, and the moment you do extrapolation, you carry the risks, because if you do a testing on 25% scalable or 50% scalable, and you are saying like my application is going to be scalable with 500 users, then you are saying like, oh, let's do a math, do it at 250 users. If 250 users can support, then you can say like production is going to support you 500 users, because now almost double the configuration. But that's not going to happen. It's not a real easy calculation or easy math that you do, right? So that way you are not getting a mimic environment, and you always have to do a extrapolation, and the moment you are doing extrapolation, you are carries the risks. And in my experience, I always say like we do a lot of testing at the performance test environment, and then come up with some issues. And while analyzing the issue, we came to know like, oh, it's not an application issue. It's an issue that your application environment, that means your performance test environment and your production environment, the configuration settings file doesn't match. So basically you lose a lot of time, effort, and then again you have to do the same testing. And we know performance testing happens at the last moment. The window is always short, so you cannot afford to lose those times. So those are very crucial time, because business will be waiting, everybody will be waiting to get a go ahead and do a deployment. But still, because of those settings it doesn't match, it's not actually mimic in terms of the hardware settings or configurations. You actually lose a lot of effort. And then lastly, I'll say like traditional performance testing never starts at the early stage. It is always happen at the late. It had to always happen at the time of pre-production environment. So any performance testing defects are always expensive, and if it is finding at the time of pre-production environment, it will be more expensive. And traditionally, if you do early performance testing, if you do actually, which you don't do, if you do actually, then it's going to be a cost effective also. Let's give an example, like a small performance defect which you identified at the time of development stages. If it is going to cost you $100, the same issue if you find at the time of pre-production is going to cost you $1,500, and the same issue you find at the production is going to cost you $15,000. So these are huge number, 100 to 1500 to 15,000. It's not a small number, and it may not be applicable or may not match to your projects, but it is a kind of indication that tells you like performance defects are very, very expensive. Try to resolve it as early as possible, and the moment you will be doing proactively and early in your stages, you are going to get the benefits. And traditionally performance testing never does that. And so overall, traditional performance testing carries a lot of risks, and it never been to get the full benefits out of performance testing. So my answer to all these risks are proactive performance testing. So you start early, you do it proactively. The moment you will be doing proactively, you are going to get those benefits. You can find those issues early, you can resolve those issues early, and then you don't have to wait till that portion. You are almost done. So that way it's going to help you. So when I say like proactive performance testing, I always say it's like an ongoing activity. So proactive performance testing is an ongoing activity which starts from the requirement gathering until it continues till post deployment. So I'm saying like post deployment. So your job is not, most of the cases, most of the projects feels like performance tester job or performance testing job finishes at the time of pre-production environment. But I'm not saying it's not finished. You have to do at the time of post deployment. So your operations teams effort or maybe like their support is absolutely required. So how we'll be doing at the time of post deployment? I'm not asking you to do performance testing at the production or maybe at the time of post deployment, but what I'm trying to say is like you should monitor your end-to-end infrastructure. You should monitor all your servers. The moment you will be monitoring those things, you are going to get the real user simulation. You are going to know how real user behaves. So, and that's called as like a typical term we call as a real user monitoring, RUM. So So the moment you are going to get those real user behavior, you will know like whether your production is having some performance issue, whether there is a potential chance of performance issues. The moment those issues or those data or statistics that you are gathering, it needs to be go back to your pre-production environment while you prepare for the next round. That's what I say, like ongoing activity. You have to do it continuously. You have to do it ongoing. So it's like a journey. It's not a stoppable, never stoppable activity. So one round done, and you are preparing or making yourself ready for the next round. And that way you will be ensuring every time you are creating the real user behavior. And that's what all business is looking for. And then again, like you always have to do the production log analysis. Yes, you have to analyze the production log. The moment you will be analyzing the production log, you are going to get a lot of data and statistics, and those data and statistics are absolutely required at the time of workload modeling plan for performance testing. So think about it, think it this way. So one particular business critical scenario is observing a huge transactional frequency, or maybe like your average peak load is changing, or maybe like a new business critical scenario has been added which is observing a more number of users nowadays, or maybe like your business is looking for a more user down the line because they are anticipating business user growth. So those are the statistics and data that is absolutely required for your production log that you are going to get from the production log, and you can use it for the next round. So that way it's going to help you, and those are absolutely required. So if you do it proactively, you are going to get a lot of data at the time of post deployment. And it's a continuous cycle. As I said, like you have to do it continuously. The moment you are doing continuously, you are going to get you are going to ensure you always create the real user behavior, and that way proactive performance testing helps. And it has to be done quickly. Yes, as you know, the window is always short. If you have to do it quickly, at the moment you do quickly, you are giving ample time to the development team or maybe like the application team, so they can resolve those performance issues and then get certified in regression, come back to production, and you do repetitive round of testing, ensure there is no flaws or there is no performance issues before you go back to a next round. So that way proactive performance testing helps. Proactive performance provides a lot of assurance, a lot of confidence ahead of deployment. Yes, it provides confidence because you are doing every time, and it provides confidence in two ways. It provides a lot of new features with very short span of time, or maybe like in quick succession, and with improved performance. So both of your end user will be happy because your end user getting the new features every time and it's going quickly, and he is getting it with the quick succession and with improved performance. So both ways they will be happy, and the moment your end user is happy, your overall customer experience journey will be always on the better side, and the moment it happens, your customers will be remain loyal and you can do business in long run. So that way you can survive in a long way, and proactive performance testing absolutely helps in enhance customer experience. Now I think in a different way. Okay, think like you are not taking care of performance as a serious way. You think about the bad performance. So the moment your application is not doing good in terms of performance, what will happen? Your end users are not happy. They are not remain loyal. They will go to the competitor side, and they will influence or induce others to go to the other competitor side. So overall, it's not good business, right? Your business will be downfalling for sure. And still, I feel like some of the companies or maybe some of the organizations still feels like performance testing is not a part of SDLC, because they do calculate the associated cost of performance testing, but they do not calculate the business benefit of performance testing. So at the end, it becomes a business disaster for them. So I will definitely say performance testing is absolutely required, and you have to do it proactive performance testing. And that's what it's like. Proactive performance testing is business. The moment you will be doing proactive performance testing, it's cost effective. It tells you it's going to give you the full benefits of performance testing. It ensures your end users are happy. It ensures your internal users are also happy. So think about like you are not doing performance testing. The other ways, like your end user are not happy, they go to the competitor side, or what? Think about your internal user. They are not happy, they are demotivated, their productivity gets decreased, and then again, like your total overall operational cost is also going to be increased. So that way, it's not at all business. Rather, proactive performance testing is business. And proactive performance testing is applicable for all projects. Let me tell you, it's not only for the agile based project or for the sprint dev. for preventive kind of thing, but it is applicable for all projects. You have to remember that proactive performance testing is not just a checklist that you will be taking care at the time of pre-production environment. It is an ongoing activity which you have to start from the requirement gathering. You have to continue till post deployment, and it's a never stoppable activity. It's like you have to do it. You are one round done and you're preparing yourself for the next round. And you have to make performance throughout organization. The moment you will to build, you have to tell everybody, as I said, like application owner, tester, stakeholder, operation team, development team, they all had to understand that performance is absolutely necessary. And the moment they will be thinking that, they will be ensuring application performance is as a higher priority. And the moment it is giving higher priority, you will be giving end-to-end response time always on the improved side. And that way you'll be ensuring your customers happy, your end users happy, and your overall customer experience journey is always on the better side. So that way it's definitely going to help you out. So overall, proactive performance testing tells you from the performance testing point of view, it helps you to ensure about the speed, scalability, stability, and availability, all four to your end customers. And that way it's absolutely required if you want to do business in long run. As I said, like proactive performance testing provides a lot of new features in quick succession with improved performance, so you make your end user happy. But if you want to make proactive performance testing as a process, or as a maybe like ongoing process for your business, then what are the things that you have to remember? And if you remember those things and you go through the step by step, it will be cost effective and it will ensure overall your enhanced customer experience. So first and foremost, you have to do it early and you have to do it proactively. It's a mandatory. You have to start early. The moment you will be starting early, it will be cost effective, as I'm saying. Okay. So thinking like you have to start performance testing at the requirement gathering stage. But can we do performance testing at the time of requirement gathering stage? No, because your application is not ready. So I'm not saying like you have to do performance testing at the time of requirement gathering stage. But what I'm trying to say is like your SDLC, that is software development lifecycle, and your PTLC, that is performance testing lifecycle, both needs to go as a syncing way. So think about the requirement gathering stage for SDLC. You can start finalize your SLA, that service level agreement, or maybe like you can finalize your requirement gathering questionnaires, or maybe like you finalize your workload modeling plan, or maybe like at the time of design phase of your SDLC, you can start thinking about creating the performance testing environment, set up the controller, set up the load generator, set up the connectivity and all those. And you start performance testing as a modular approach, the way even the application works, right? So if one module is done or one module development is completed, you can take one business critical scenarios and you can do scripting on that side, and then you can run those tests. And by the time all modules are done and get it integrated, so when you will be doing integrated or end-to-end testing while integration environment is available, by that time you will find some issues. If the number of issues will be pretty less, because most of the issues has been done, has been already captured, resolved, everything has been done. So that way it helps. So you have to start early, but you do not have to start execution early. You can start as a modular approach. Okay. And as I said, like your environment needs to be exactly similar. So environment means I'm saying like performance testing environment and the production environment needs to be exactly mimic, not only in terms of the hardware size, but also in terms of the configuration and settings. So if that matches, then only you do not have to do any extrapolation. And the moment you are not doing extrapolation, you are always going a precise and correct result, and that result can use as a decisive factor for your go ahead deployment, right? And then again, like the performance testing environment data size, the data size of the performance testing environment needs to be 100% production refresh data, so that you get the accurate result, or maybe like the precise result. You can do some kind of data maxing kind of thing for your security features, but you have to get 100%. Sometimes it's not possible. So we as a performance teams recommend at least have to have 70% of the data of the production. But if it is less than 70% data, we should not do any performance testing, because even if you do performance testing, those results cannot be used as a decision, or maybe like as a decisive factor for your or go ahead deployment, or maybe like the whether it will be used for it for deployment or not. So, but ideally it should be 100% data size, and I personally feel like a lot of applications, a lot of big teams or the big companies are nowadays doing it seriously. And the moment when you'll be doing performance testing, as I said, like you can start performance testing when the modular level will be available, right? So you can go the modular approach, but you can start performance testing only when your application is functionally stable and your environment is functionally stable. So the moment your application is functionally stable and your environment is functionally stable, you can certainly do performance testing, even if it is in a modular level approach. And that way it will be more cost effective because you are finding those issues very early and it will not be that costly, right? And the interfaces and background process also plays a role for proactive performance testing. So think about the enterprise based application. They had a lot of interfaces, right? So when you'll be doing performance testing, you have to first ensure like your interfaces are up and running, because if your interfaces are not up and running, you will not able to do performance testing. Let me give you a small example. Okay, so you just go to any particular application, you do a login scenario, click the button. Okay, think about behind the scene, there is an interface called LDAP, which is actually taking care of your user ID credential. Okay, so if your LDAP is down, you will not go to your home page. So how you will be doing your performance testing? So that way you have to ensure your interface is up and running so that it gives you the proper result. And then again, like when I talk about end user response time or end user experience journey, or maybe like even the customer experience, it basically tells you the end-to-end response time. It will not tell you like one particular more portion of your application or one particular interface is doing good, the others are not doing good. They always see it as an end-to-end experience. Okay, so the moment they will see end-to-end response time, you had to tell each and every interfaces, every component is giving you optimum performance. So you have to ensure your interfaces are giving you optimum performance, and that way it's going to help you out. And then again, like background process. So when I say like background process is like the batches or maybe like the concurrent jobs that runs behind the scene. So there are two approaches that you have to take, or maybe like you have to identify like how it works. So the moment I talked about background process, sometimes it works on the day hours to support your end user, or sometimes it works on the night time for the reporting purposes, which in most of the cases the batch works. Okay, so if it is running on the night time, then you have to do performance testing. You have to complete your performance testing before the batch starts, or maybe like you can start after the batch gets completed. So you should avoid batch as a factor for your performance test result, and you always get a precise or correct result. On the other side, or maybe like the accurate result. And on the other side, when the batch runs daytime to support your end user, then you have to do a test with batch and you have to do without batch. And the moment you will be doing with and without batch, you will be easily understand how batch is playing a role in terms of the deteriorating performance. So that you have to say, if it is actually giving deteriorated performance or it is not at all matching with SLA, then you have to work something so that your end users are not get affected. And the moment your end users are not affected, you are making your customer experience journey better. So that is another aspect of doing it. So background process also plays a role for proactive performance testing. Start thinking about real life conditions. So you have to think those real life conditions at the time of pre-production to simulate the real life situation. Think about maybe like you can think about high latency places or maybe like low bandwidth places. So those are the things that you have to simulate well in advance at the pre-production, so you do not get any surprise in production. And even in nowadays, like mobile users are ramping up like anything, right? So you can start thinking about mobile user simulation, because a lot of new applications are coming which are nowadays giving mobile user away. Or maybe like people are actually using a lot of different browser, right? Not earlier people only used to do in the even the load runner is coming with a lot of different browser just to ensure like their end user always gets the accurate and precise result. So those are the real life conditions that you have to simulate back itself in the pre-production environment so that you do not get any surprise. Then again, like load generator plays a major role for performance testing. Load generator is a machine which generates the load. So if you want to run a 500 user test, you distribute the load. So you basically distribute the load across the load generator machines. And people call it as a load injector machine. Some people call it as a host machine. But the reality is most of the cases we do load generator, we put load generator inside our firewall and try to do the testing. So there are some cases like where multiple users will be outside firewall. We do put load generator outside the firewall, but most of the cases it will be inside your LAN. So the moment it will be inside your LAN, and nowadays a lot of applications are using multi-geographic location users. So their applications having a user from Europe, from India, or from IEMA, or from US. So different people are using it. So on those cases, how you'll be ensuring you are getting a real user behavior? So on those cases, you have to ensure you put load generator outside your firewall and put those load generator to that geography in different geographic locations, so you can simulate the real user behavior, and you can even compare like how the response time is changing when you are doing the testing inside your LAN and when you are doing testing putting load generator in a different geographical location. So that way it helps, and that is something all the people are nowadays looking for. As I said, like post deployment, you have to ensure you are revisiting the business critical scenarios and workload model every time. So you have to ensure like you are taking care of all your business critical scenario, you are taking care of your transaction per hour, you are taking care of your average load, peak load value, and you are taking care of your business anticipated business user growth. So on the scalability perspective, right? So those are the things that every time you have to revisit it. And as I said, like proactive performance testing is not a stoppable activity, right? It has to be done continuously. So the moment you are doing it ongoing or continuously, you have to revisit it every time before another round of testing. But remember, proactive performance testing or this like this testing has to be done mandatory even if it's a small change. So even if you have one small changes, you can go ahead and do a testing, because you never know, a small issue can create a big problem. So that way you have to help you out. Proactive performance testing needs to be done quickly. As I said, like the whole objective is to provide ample time to the development team or application team, so they have to resolve those issues with the help of the performance team, and then operations team will help you out. So that way it has to be done quickly, and the moment it's done quickly, you can do a repeated round of testing to ensure, oh, those issues has been done, there is no issue, you are good to go for your deployment. There is another concept I said, like data randomization and caching. Let me take it as an example, and then probably it will be easy for you to understand. When we do a performance testing 1,000 user, and if I ask our application team or maybe the development team or stakeholder that give me 1,000 set of user ID, they will say, oh, that will take long time, that cannot be done. So most of the cases what we do is like we create 100 or 200 set of user ID, we do clone of those users and then run those testing, right? So basically data randomization doesn't happen properly. As data randomization doesn't happen correctly, you will always have a caching and your result might be better. And it's not only applicable for the user ID or maybe like the credentials only. It is applicable for all the other parameters that you have to use. And so data caching plays a role. You have to think about, try to get as many different parameters as possible to make it more realistic, make it always get an accurate result. And you can start thinking about the incremental load. So the moment you are thinking about the incremental load, what I'm trying to say is like start with average load, then go with the peak load, then try to ramp up the user. And one point of time when your application will be started failing, that's a point maybe like that, there's a stress point of your application, there's a maximum number of users supported by your application will be started failing. So when I say application started failing, I'm saying like your throughput will be started failing. So if you draw a graph with user and the throughput, you can suddenly feel like one point of time it suddenly jumps down, and that's the point we are talking about, and that's the maximum number of users that application can handle. You can do iterative round of testing for performance testing, where you do one parameter, change one parameter at a time. Do not change multiple parameters at the same point of time, because you never know which is causing the degradation or which is causing the improvement. So then again, you have to do another round of testing, but it's always better to go with one parameter at a time. And you have to do continuously track. So continuously track in terms of how your response time or how your overall application performance is actually giving. So it is like a trend chart that application will love to see. They want to see in a long run whether your application is actually always giving you improved performance, because they want to ensure their end users are happy. They want to ensure they always give enhanced customer experience by providing improved performance. So that way continuously track is absolutely required for proactive performance testing. And then again, like monitoring also plays a role for proactive performance testing. So when I say like monitoring is not only for post deployment, it is also for while doing performance testing. So that plays a major role. So you can suddenly connect those performance counter or monitoring, which tells you the server side statistics. So traditionally, if you do any automation testing tool, you are going to get hits per second, you are going to get throughput, you are going to get response time, or maybe like errors per second. So those are like client side statistics. But you also have to have a server side statistics to pinpointing where actually your performance problem lies or where exactly your performance bottleneck is happening. So there are three ways you can do monitoring. You can directly connect those automated performance testing tool. Take an example like load run connects to the app server, web server, or maybe like DB server of your boxes. But maybe like some of the application, maybe like banking application could be an example where people do not want to share the credentials because they don't want to penetrate their server. So on those cases, you can go with any APM tools. Nowadays, a lot of APM tools like Dynatrace are available in the market, or maybe like the traditional monitoring tools like Sitescope, or maybe like Willy Interscope, or maybe like IBM Tivoli. A lot of tools are there, and even if you do not want to spend money on monitoring tools, you can go ahead with the freer things, like you can go to the Windows boxes directly and do a perform, gather those performance statistics, or maybe like for Unix boxes, or maybe like Solaris or AI boxes, you can go to the app server directly through Qt or whatever way, and you do a certain round of grep, try to find out whether there is any abnormal words which is coming out, or maybe like you can use those traditional performance testing commands like TOPS or VMstat, IOStat, a lot of availables are there, right? So that you have to do, but you have to ensure you are taking care of monitoring seriously to pinpointing where exactly the problem lies. And you can start thinking about the extreme condition inside your performance testing environment. Yes, you have to think about the extreme condition. You have to think about the spike testing, suddenly increasing the user load and suddenly decreasing the load. Take an example like on a specific day, time sheet could be example, right? On a specific day, everybody clicks that button, so that application is not available. Or maybe like your one node is down, how will be ensuring those testing? So you can think about the failover testing. So those are the extreme conditions that you can think about at the time of well in advance. So you can do it proactively. You can think those extreme conditions, ensure there will be no issues in production. And you have to finalize your SLA. You have to finalize your SLA, and you have to establish the benchmark for future reference at the time of requirement gathering. So when you will be doing the actual test, you can always compare. You know how your application is delivering, whether it is actually giving improved performance or not. So you set up the finalized SLA first, and then you compare the result when you will get the actual result, or maybe the actual benchmarking. So you know how your application is going to behave. First, you have to know your application is giving. Then only you will be ensuring like your end user perspective. And proactive performance testing is a collaborative effort, and it is a collaborative effort, and it has to be done from all the angles. All the team members has to understand, and you have to build as a culture. The moment you will be building as a culture, you will be ensuring your end user to be more amazed. Try to give amazed response time. The moment you will be giving amazed response time, they will become loyal, and the moment they will become loyal, they will stay with you for long. And that way you will be ensuring your enhanced customer experience by doing proactive performance testing. I will finish my presentation with some statistics which may not be applicable for your projects, but those are absolutely necessary. For an example, I'll take an example like where there is a good application and there is a great application. Okay, so when I say a great application in terms of performance, that gives you 5 times more revenue. That gives you 47% customer loyalty. That gives you 30% employee productivity increase, and that gives you 60% operational cost improve. So these are huge numbers: 60%, 47%, 30%, and 5 times more revenue. So those are huge numbers that if you do proactive performance testing seriously, starting from requirement gathering, and then you will be definitely ensuring your customer loyalty will be increased. And the moment your customer loyalty will be increased, your overall enhanced customer experience will be automatically coming to the picture. And that's what I say, like enhanced customer experience is absolutely done by doing proactive performance testing. Thank you.
Thanks, Arun. Thanks for your time today. And let me quickly ask you a couple of questions that we have here from our attendees.
Yeah.
So let me bring up the questions. Okay. So here is the first one. The pre-prod environment is usually not the same hardware spec as your prod environment. So how do you adjust your performance tests to cater for this? I mean, and on the same topic, on the same question, expanding it further, Nadir has asked, pre-prod performance results will generally be slower if environments differ. So how do you spot valid issues in these instances?
Yeah. So let me tell you, my presentation is telling you should get a actual environment. It should be mimic to the production. Okay. But anyway, most of the cases, even I personally feel like my 12 years of experience, I always get like 25% to 50% scalable. So it's like a trade-off that you have to do. You have to do extrapolation. You cannot able to tell you. So we do a like it's not going to be simple mathematics, but you can tell it like whether everything is within SLA or not. So take an example like your SLA says like it should be under 500 user load on production is going to be within 3 seconds for an example. So we had to test like even half of the configuration file, what is the result it is coming. It is coming closer to 3, then probably we'll be saying it's good. But if it is coming maybe like 100, maybe like 3 is coming 5, then definitely there is an issue. Okay. So it's like basically a trade-off that you have to do. If there is no real math calculation is there, but how we will tell our end customer is that way we do take care of a lot of other factors, not only in terms of the performance, the taking care of the how many transaction per hour, or maybe like how much transaction failure happens. Is it more than 3%, or is it like the comparison result is actually within the range or not? So a lot of other factors we try to see. We see like whether there are a lot of errors is happening. Is it like those 500 and 400 errors? So those are the things even comes into the picture while doing this extrapolation. But it is always a risk that we are going. So even if we say it's going to be good, we are basically going with the risks. We say like the positive, it will not be any issues. Okay.
Thank you. I think extrapolation is one of the dangerous things to do in performance.
Absolutely. And that is what I'm saying, like you do it proactively, you do it exactly on the same environment. The basic example, even for the part second is fine. Think about the user perspective. You had need to know 500 user in your production, right? You will get a half of the environment and you run a test with 250 users. If that's successful, you cannot say like it's going to be successful for 500 user because it's a double configuration that you have in terms of the only hardware. So that is something, yes, extrapolation is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, here is another question from Gayatri, and I'm not sure if you can answer it in totality because I think we may need some more information, but let's see if this makes sense. How do we do data management? And I think she's speaking in terms of performance testing. How do we approach with our large data requirements as we are always pushed back for large data requests?
Absolutely. So when we do go for the any new engagement, we first have to think about who will be doing this performance data, because it's going to be multiple user, right? So there will be a lot of data that's required. I absolutely agree with you. Okay. So sometimes it is like they do not provide any cost or any effort for this one. On those cases, it's a direct responsibility of the development team or maybe like the applications team or stakeholder that you are working with. Okay. Sometimes even they say like it's a responsibility with you, so we put additional effort for that, and on those cases we go ahead with that different approach. Okay, so we try to create a simulate, we try to create another set of script which can create your multiple parameters, and we try to simulate in such a way that every roles and responsibility can be taken care. There are a lot of ways you have to think. It's not like the roles and responsibility comes into the picture and then I like whether it will be available, those data will be available to all the users or not. So that way you have to create those data and you have to ensure you can do like any coding, or maybe like I personally prefer to do some extra set of scripting through load runner or maybe like any other performance testing tool and create those many sets of data. And if think about even for load testing, people do it for 1 to 2 hours. We had to do sometimes endurance testing for finding any memory leak or memory related issue, which runs minimum 4 hours to 8 hours. Sometimes people run it for 24 hours. So think about the actual data requirement is there. And then again, like data needs to be on a two different aspects. It could be exhausted data, or it could be the same data you can use multiple times. So it's not always active data. So those active data is pretty fine, but there are a lot of cases we had to be always existing data, right? On those cases, you had to have some approach, or you had to create a data staging way, or maybe like data orchestrate way. You have to plan your testing, but it has to be given as a huge importance while creating, or maybe like at the time of creating your test scripts. Okay.
Yeah, very rightly said. I mean, normally I do see there are like test data management teams also who's like, there are sometimes teams allocated completely for this job. And while there are some tools also available for generating data, like for SQL or other databases, or otherwise by scripting, as you said, you can either generate it.
Maybe like you think about the user ID credential, that mostly people could do it from the database, and they just replicate it or clone it and get back to you. But if it is, take an example like order ID, you had to create those orders, otherwise you'll not push back, right? So those are done by the scripting. Yes.
Gayatri again is asking about what are the bottlenecks for scalability of any applications, even when the connection pool is sized properly?
It's like giving upfront answer is pretty tough for this kind of answer. It depends on a lot of aspects. Okay, so scalable, when you talk about scalable, it is dependent on your environment. So you have to tell, like, I have this web server, I have this app server, I have this DB server. Under this, I did a testing with 1,000 users, and it is scalable till 1,000, or it may be like scalable till 800. For an example, because you run more testing after that and started failing. So that we have to do, that we have to think. Okay, so it all depends on the hardware capacity, and that's what I say, like capacity planning is absolutely required, and you had to ensure like what business is looking for. But business will be always looking for the optimum performance with minimum set of hardware, right? So that is something. So I cannot answer it accurately, but you have to there are a lot of other aspects that you have to think, and you have to go with like gradually increasing the load and trying to identify where is that point where your application started failing. And it's not only always about increasing the users. You can also do it in different way by increasing the transaction per hour. So you put in more numbers of the more number of hits to the server. That way also you can, one point of time your application will be started failing. So that way also people try to see like whether specific cases my users is fine, but they are clicking or they are hitting the server so many times. So that is also comes under scalability. So that is another way of thinking.
Absolutely. So it will need a lot of investigation to be done. Like
yes.
Before we conclude. Yep. All right. I think that's all for now, Arun. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
It was a very insightful session on performance testing, and I'm sure our attendees found it very informative and useful too. Thanks again, and I hope to see you in Washington.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Well, everyone, this concludes our webinar for today. So thanks everyone for joining. Stay tuned for more webinars and online trainings coming soon. And if you haven't signed up yet for the upcoming webinar, which is The Drive-Through is Not Always Faster, Rethinking Your Testing Practice by Mike Lyles on 13th September, then go ahead, do it. The link is up for registration at SoftwareTestPro.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week ahead. See you all in Washington.